Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video. And what a busy 24 hours it's been since the announcement of the new restriction list for the One Piece card game. It's been pretty chaotic. A lot of people think a lot of things, and it's going to be really, really interesting what these next couple weeks and next couple events look like too. So this weekend, by the way, it's not affected. It's not until Pasadena, which will be like the day one format for this new restriction list, and then the week after that is when Starter Deck 10 is going to be legal. So it's going to be really interesting. And then also like our one regionals in December will be OP04 or OP05 format, which will be completely different too. So, it's really thrown aside like a lot of the schedules I had already for content, and some videos I'm going to have to re-record or remake as well. So that's going to be a lot of work for me, but I did want to make this one just kind of going over some decks and just kind of my thoughts going into this. Obviously this is very kind of, 24 hours thoughts. Not all these decks are completely tested out either, but they're just kind of my thoughts going on into this format. And I do want to just start off to just kind of like a quick like rundown of my thoughts 24 hours later. I did do a big live stream as well, which is on Twitch here as well. It's going to be linked in the description if you guys want to see some of my thoughts in like longer form, or you want to do some testing, which I did do some testing with the new restrictions as well with Brian from Stage Zero. So make sure to check that out. Again, it's going to be linked. It's for YouTube members, so if you guys want to check that out and support me, I really would appreciate it. But my quick thoughts, in case anyone really cares about them, is that I am also worried about if 10 drop Big Mom being unchecked. That's either with Katakuri or Lin. So I think a lot of people are worried about this deck, or something similar to this deck is going to be not only the best deck, but this is the most present one. But I will say I am optimistic about trying new decks, new builds, and just having like a bunch of new stuff to test. Even if we have like a couple weeks of like testing new stuff and we find out, let's just say this is the best deck in the format, right? We only have this format for like a month and for like a couple of events. And if the format's bad, or if it's unchecked, I think OP05 is going to change all that. I also think that it's going to, I would be really surprised if they kept everything restricted going into OP05. My thoughts is that they probably actually will unrestrict some stuff. I'd be shocked if Nami stays banned, for the record. I'm still reeling from that card being banned in the first place. But that's my opinion. That's my thoughts. No guarantees or anything, but it's kind of that. And I also do want to say, like, it is pretty rough for people going into Pasadena. It's going to be really chaotic for you guys. And I know statistically, about 40 to 50% of you were going to be playing red anyways. So having to, change that like a week beforehand is really stinky. And so I do think that's kind of rough for them. But I hope they figure it out. And I think that is like actual condolences. That's really rough to kind of figure that out, especially since it's going to be like the largest event in person for the One Piece card game at the time. So I think that's going to be it's going to be chaotic, but I'm also interested to see on the other side what that looks like and what the top 32 deck lists look like, even if it is just Katakuri, just to have like a really big 1,500 person event to see what the meta and everything looks like. So anyways, we're going to go over some deck lists that I've been thinking about, I've been trying, and might be like good into this next format. I have no guarantees about this because there's no testing. There's some testing, but like no data. And a lot of them are just ideas of decks that I think you guys could make better moving forward. But, having to re-examine so many decks in so little time for an event that's only going to have one specific list. And then we get the new purple stuff and Star Deck 10 and red stuff too. So I think that is what we've got here. But we're going to jump on into it. We're going to start off with a yellow Big Mom. And I think this deck is going to be very present. I think a lot of people, including myself, think it's probably going to be the best deck day one for this format. We're going to see if someone is able to find something that counters it, or if like the meta is still friendly for something like this. But obviously I think a lot of people are a little bit afraid of this Charlotte Lin just being too good of a card, like playing it back to back. I think Katakuri was a little bit put at bay because red was so aggressive, and so sometimes if you played a 10 drop you just wouldn't have enough defense to stay alive for the next turn. So that's scary. If that's the what happens for this, that is a little bit rough, and I think a lot of people kind of share that sentiment. We'll see what happens. I'm staying cautiously optimistic, but I do think if you want to play yellow, here's the build, something like this. If you don't like 8-drop Katakuri, put some Yamatos in. I know this card like doubled in price over the last couple days just because like people thinking that this is a relevant card in what they think is going to be the best deck in the format now. So nothing too surprising there, but that's kind of where Katakuri sits. So we'll see. I also want to say, like, I think a lot of people should be trying Lin. I know Katakuri is like the one that they go to, but like in a format where we don't care about hitting 6K as much, and like we can be like everything's going to be a 5K leader again. I think Lin does get a lot of power, and I recommend testing it out. It's my favorite of the two. I like the playstyle a little bit more, and also with Trafalgar Law kind of gone, like Lin's kind of worst matchup gets a little bit better too. So this is yellow if you guys want to check it. I also think Nami is going to be pretty good. This is just the build, which I think should change going into our little I guess 0.5 format or whatever you want to call it, but I think Nami's going to be strong. I think it does well against a lot of decks. I do think that it can beat yellow if it's a little bit slow. I think Lin also has a better Nami matchup because you can draw cards from your life early if you need to. So I think that's important for it. But I think Nami's going to be pretty present. I'd say that this is like both these two are like the gut feeling of something that's going to be really strong, and we'll have to see if that ends up being true as well. So this is just the list. I've done literally nothing to change it, and we'll see if anyone finds any new variations or new text that kind of make it a little bit better. But here's the list there. All right, film stuff. I've got 2 decks, and also for the record, a lot of these decks are based off of decks that have topped in the last couple of weeks. So if you guys want to check out my website, highly recommend it. It has all of the regionals in the English meta, so that means in North America and other places around the world that have that. So a lot of deck lists, and just kind of for something that's a little bit atypical that's topped, or something you want to see like a good baseline, I think this has a lot of good resources for it too. So, but I think film package, this is based off Eric's list that got second at the core TCG event, and I think this is in a good spot. I do think 10-drop Dofi is a really good card against a lot of decks, including yellow at times, so that's good. But also this can be aggressive enough, I feel like, to beat up blue, and I think that's like Nami as well. So, Kid's always been like the best green lead, like the most generic one, and still been very good from there on. So here's this build, and then also Don Quixote do Flamingo. This one's based off Ernesto's first place build, but I've made a couple changes to it. I haven't tested it with kind of the idea that red is not present, and I think I probably should have said this too. Red's probably still around, for the record. Red's probably still around. If it's the best placing deck after all these cards are restricted, then they just need to throw the whole color away. But I think that just the fact that the biggest thing is that you don't have to worry about a 6K leader right now. I think that's the biggest thing for this meta. So, but I do think Dofi does do well. The fact that you put up a lot of blockers, the fact that you can stun or buy an extra turn with the Don Quixote do Flamingo, I really do like that for this deck and for this meta. You do have to be careful that Nami can be like a little bit too fast for you at times if left unchecked, but I do really like what this deck can do and the power for it. So I play more of like a Thunderbogwa build for some more like extension. If you want to play a 9-drop Kaido in this deck, go for it. I think the meta is slow enough for it too. But just another deck that can be very strong, I feel like, and it's been topping a lot. And I don't have, for the record too, like I think blue, like Crocodile or like Don Quixote do Flamingo, the blue one, I think they can also do well. I just don't have the builds in this video, but I think blue has some good spots. And Queen, I think Queen can be a good spot. You just have to be careful about, again, the 10-drop being the bane of your existence at times. So anyways, going into our first like new deck, we've got Arlong, and unironically, and I'm ready to be completely wrong about this, I think this is probably one of the best aggressive decks that we can have right now. The fact that Arlong's ability is very good at popping out 4 costs for free. You get a 7K attack, and you get to play, a Perospero, you get to play a Sanji, a Smoothie, a Cracker. All these cards are really, really good. If your opponent hits into your life, you have so many cards that can be played off of it that you just get so much, momentum and pressure. I honestly do think Arlong does have a chance at doing very well in this format. So this is probably one of the decks I'd actually like focus on. This is my build. I know that there's other builds with it too, but this is just like super aggressive, tempo based. I really do like the add of the Yamato as well, being able to like get you like either like another turn late game, which is really nice, being able to get some removal potentially too. You are going to be pretty aggressive, so it's nothing really high end, but that can win you a lot of games. I like Katakuri as well, but if it's expensive, I get it. Django can win you the game at times too, being able to give your leader double attack, which also can pop out 2 bodies, 1 for every time. and then just kind of everything else. So this is, again, really low to the ground aggressive. If you want to play 10-drop Dofi in this build, you super can. And if you don't like Katakuri, you don't have Katakuri, I think that's fine. But you definitely want to go first with this build, and being able to play like Pudding, and then like turn 2 you use Leader Effect, and then you can play like a Nami, and like there's a lot of good stuff that can go from it. And honestly, the 50 cards is pretty tight for it. If you want to switch some stuff around, I think that's fine. I really wanted you to go to 4 copies of Yamato, but we didn't get there. But I think that's not a bad card to be at 4 of either. So I think this is something to test out. I know a lot of people are already committed to Arlong, and I feel like, no joke, like Newgate was the hardest matchup for you, because when you play so many cards that are 5Ks, a 6K leader makes a heck of a lot of difference. So I do think this is a deck that gets a lot of benefit because only 5K leaders exist right now. So there we go there. Next up, we have Vivi, and I know that I've been clowning on Vivi pretty much for like most of this meta, and I will also say that this is not a super tried and true tested list either, so don't clown on me for saying, oh, this list is bad, because I probably know it's bad too. But I do think that in a meta that's a little bit slower, Vivi does get a lot of value from it. The fact that we can play a Red Rocks, or we have like a lot of good removal for yellow, and like we're so defensive, we're a 5-life leader, we have a good amount of removal, arguably some of the best removal in the game, with a combination of stuff like Pell, but also like Red Rock and 3000 Worlds. Like, there's a lot you can do. You can get to your late game pretty easily. You get a lot of card draw, and you're really in a good spot. So I think this is good. I think like there's like the Whitebeard Pirates version that still exists, because you want your vanillas and stuff. They're good. Like we only have one of the 5-cost Marcos, which is fine, because even playing one is good. And we have one Newgate as well, so this is fine, a good card. And you also can just kind of go more the Animal Kingdom version as well if you want to see the 10-drop more often, and kind of go from that angle for it. You can run like the 3-drop ulti, which I think is neat. I do think, like, because Marco doesn't exist right now, cards like 2-drop Haruta and 2-cost Flamenco are in a better spot, because it's easier for them to survive without your opponent investing more into getting rid of them, which is really nice. And I really do like Flamenco in Vivi specifically, because it can, you can play it and it becomes like a 5K body that lets you get, like, it can trade into things really easily because of it too, and it's a Whitebeard Pirates, which we need more of right now anyways. So this is this build, but and this one is probably just a shell of a good deck. I'm not going to lie, I haven't tested this one a lot, but I have seen Vivi do some work in this meta, just because I think that, again, it's a little bit slower. You're less worried about like Zoro, and like the biggest thing about Vivi, like the can't attack ability felt really bad when your opponent had like a bunch of 1s and 2-drops, and you want to just trade right easy into it, and you just couldn't. You didn't have enough attacks to do that. So I think with that being less viable in this meta, I think Vivi does a better job at existing and getting like late game value and being really pressured. So I think this is a deck that honestly I could see myself committing more time into for this event too. So I think there might be something here as well. Next up, MAgellan, and this is the only thing I'll talk about purple decks, just because I think purple is going to get the additional boost with Star Deck 10. And you can also run King or Kaido. I think those are really good leaders right now too, and you can play Onigashima Island. But I think like being able to add like the 4-drop Law, as well as the Eustace Captain Kidd purple card, those are going to be really, really good strong staples for purple. So I'm not going to dive too much into a bunch of purple builds until I think I start talking about Star Deck 10 in general. But those cards I think make purple more viable in a format that I think rewards purple for being played already. So, but MAgellan's really good, and I do think one of the best cards in purple right now is MAgellan. If we're going to be less aggressive and we're trying to get into like our 10 Dawn curve more often, I think MAgellan on curve is such a big meanie that your opponent's just going to have like a really hard time like addressing it, which is really good. Like unironically, like MAgellan was pretty good against Newgate when they were playing more of the 9-drops and they were being more aggressive, but this can like buy you another turn. This affects them more than it affects you. You can play this MAgellan in any purple leader, so if you like King or Kaido more, go for it. I think the Impel down package with this guy being able to, Hannibal on 1, Island on 3, and then on 5 play MAgellan, I think that's a really, really strong curve that a lot of decks might have a little bit of issue keeping up with, which is nice. So other than that, we're just running some generic purple cards. I don't think this is too crazy of a list. I like my Missile Sunday, and we'll talk about Yellow Purple Croc as well, which is one of my favorite decks when we go over more of the purple Star Deck 10, expansion with being able to use that for the new stuff. So until then, this is just a really rough draft of a list. I expect purple and probably Magellan to be better with Star Deck 10, but until then, this is what we got there. And then last deck we're going to talk about is Issho, and I'll be honest, I have done like no testing with this specific, but everything else I've kind of done a little bit of testing. The list has been out for like 24 hours, but I do think Issho has a good spot in this meta potentially. If we're trying to be more grindy and the meta is less fast, I really do like what this deck does, especially being able to play defend 8-drop uses Captain Kidd is really, really easy to do in this meta when red isn't there, when we don't have like the minus, like if red's not around as much, not being able to have to worry about Otama as much, not having to worry about like the Luffy that gets around blocker, like this can prevent your opponent from getting a lot of, like you can get a lot of value from this card, which I think is really strong. So that's kind of like the idea. You just go down to 0 life as soon as possible, which means you really don't care about yellow or Star Deck Big Mom as much. You can get way greedier on the top end side too when you don't have to worry about early aggression as well. So I wouldn't say this is a perfect list in any regard, but I do think Issho could have some value. I think there's a lot of removal. I think this is a really good tempo deck, and especially like if like Law is kind of a little bit neutered with the kind of the cards that they use and everything, this deck can really take advantage of 5-drop Trafalgar Law very well. And there's a lot of strength I think that could be here. I'll probably test this out more next week as well, specifically, but this is one of my favorite decks, and I think with red not being as present, I think there is a spot for it. If blue is really, really present, they can get rid of uses Captain Kidd pretty easy with the red rock, but other than that, I think this is a pretty difficult card for a lot of decks to answer to. So I also think like 10-drop Kuzan probably there's a spot in this this build as well. So I could see like saying, okay, 2 of these gone, and then maybe like we even don't care about Killer as much anymore, right? So we could do something like this, and then we just go to Kuzan and then add 4 of the 10-drop, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Something like this. Something like this. We probably need some more discard potential, but and maybe, I don't know, Garp. Garp is so good in this deck. When you can just use Garp effect, pay it, and then you send it back to active mode at the end of the turn with your Issho. That feels really, really, really strong. And then you can put something into range with a 5k. There's some good stuff you get to do with it. So anyways, this is the list for this one. I think this has potential too. I need to test it out a little bit more, but I want it to be on people's mind. And honestly, like, no joke, like there are a lot of leaders. These are just kind of the leaders that I had a deck list associated with and had some confidence with, but there are just so many leaders that I think you can test out right now and they could be in a good spot. Like blue, Don Quixote do Flamingo, a lot of people, Kaido, blue, purple, and Croc, blue, purple, I think people are on. I still feel like they both lose to yellow, but we'll see if that's true. I know people have been talking about Garp. Kinemon's been like a good green leader. Emporio. I know some people have been coping with Z. We'll see. I still think Ace is maybe Dunzo, but maybe not. Maybe not. Iceberg. Who knows? Also, this Lin's really obnoxious too. I think it loses to the mirror match, but otherwise it can be in a good spot, and just a bunch of other things. Crocodile, I love this deck. We'll talk about it later next week, but I don't know. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see what decks can test and do well in this new meta. I know a lot of people are just like upset that their deck got hit, which is totally understandable for that. But at the end of the day, I really do like the idea of testing out a new meta. And if the meta stinks, once again, we only have it for about a month, so that's fine. They'll change it back for OP05. I have faith in that. And I think that's going to be it for this video. So let me know what leaders you guys are excited to test out, which ones I missed, which ones should have made this video. But again, this is just 24 hours with the new list, restriction list, trying to make some decks, trying to get some ideas brewing, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. So that's going to be it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.
Damn it. Damn it.